Welcome to 805 Focus. I'm Dr. Cinder Sinclair with Nonprofit Connect, and we will be bringing you the latest on your favorite nonprofits, so get ready to be inspired. Our special guests today, we have two. First, we have Chris Voss, who's the president of the board of directors of the Commercial Fishermen of Santa Barbara. And we also have Ava Schulenberg. Welcome, both of you. So glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having us, Cinder.
So, Commercial Fishermen of Santa Barbara, I bet there are people that don't even know there is such a thing. And yet here we have the pier and the harbor and lots of fish going on. So tell us all about your organization.
So it's a nonprofit, obviously, and the board is made up of fishermen that participate in a variety of different fisheries. So we get good representation from the entire community, which is made up of different activities. Like each fisherman has a different activity, like a trap fisherman or a gillnet fisherman. So there's a variety of units within the broader unit of the Commercial Fishermen of Santa Barbara.
So your board has representatives from all of those.
That's right.
How many different sort of groups are there?
About 6 or 7.
Okay.
Yeah. And what we try to do is pick issues that all of us could get behind collectively. But at the same time, if one interest group, one fishing group has specific challenges, we as an association will try to help them address those challenges in representing their interests at the state or even at the federal level in some cases.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you help represent at the state.
Yes.
You folks are doing a lot of
Lots of
work
meetings.
that I bet people don't know about.
Yeah.
We go to a lot of meetings, yeah.
You go to a lot of
We
meetings?
go to
Yes.
more meetings than most fishermen, I'd
Yeah.
say.
All right. And so the thing I find interesting, I found this out on your website, is that you not only involve all of the different types of fisher people, but you care about the quality, the health of the ocean, and all of that. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'll start by saying that in Santa Barbara, we're super fortunate to have so robust fishing grounds. We have really incredible access to the Channel Islands and then the coast, and then California Bends at Point Conception, and we get incredible mixing of nutrients. So we have a variety of different species. Santa Barbara is unique in the variety of species that are landed here. And over time, we've had the urchin fishery. Santa Barbara was the largest producing port in the state for a while. And so there's been these periods of time when our production has been exceedingly high. Right now, we're the largest lobster producers in the state too.
Largest lobster
Producing
in
port
the
in the
state.
Yep, that's right. And it should be noted that the fishery itself only happens from Point Conception to the Mexican border. Of course, there's a Mexican lobster fishery too over the border in Mexico, but because of the water temperature, it's just from Point Conception to the Mexican border for California.
Water temperature.
Yeah.
So does the water temperature determine what kinds of fish are in our area?
Exactly. That's exactly right.
So other places, I don't know, like San Diego or any other place that has a harbor, then do they typically get just fewer types of fish there?
To some degree, yeah. Yeah, to a certain extent, because we're in such a dynamic mixing environment of warmer and colder water coming from the northern and central part of the state, and warmer water coming up from the south. We get a more significant number of different species here in Santa Barbara.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Special place.
Yes,
It is.
Yeah, we
It
know
is.
that part, but I didn't know about this. So, tell us about. Well, I know that every Saturday there's a market, and I know that there's a harbor festival that happens once a year. So, tell us about that.
Well, I manage the Saturday Fisherman's Market, which has been going on for decades. And I actually worked at it when I was a young girl with my dad, which was really sweet. It was my first job when I was about 3 or 4 years old.
Oh, gosh.
And so now to be working at it again and to be managing it is It's really full circle, so it's very important to me. But it's also just a great opportunity to shake the hand of the person who caught your food, you know. And there are people that come every Saturday that you build these personal relationships with. It really is like a family. And for anyone who has never been, we welcome new people every week. Every Saturday, someone comes down and says, you know, I've lived here for 50 years and I never even knew this existed. How wonderful. And then they get hooked on it and come back every week and see us. So it's a really special community, and I think we've lost touch of the sourcing of our food as a society. So to have this amazing market in our small town where you can still have those relationships and get really fresh, healthy, local seafood, it's a great, great opportunity. I recommend anyone going and checking it out. Whether you eat seafood or not, it's still really fun. It's a good time. The kids love it. It's super great. And then the Harbor Festival is something that takes place that's put on by the Waterfront Department every October, and it's right after lobster season opens, so it's usually about the second weekend in October, right after the season opens. And our job at CFSB is to manage the lobster boiling station, which is where, you know, we take everyone's product that they've purchased and we boil it right there, so you can pick out your live lobster, get it boiled and cooked, and then go take it and eat it somewhere in the harbor while enjoying the music and whatever else is going on. It's a really big
fun.
It's super fun. And last year was the first year that it took place in 2022, obviously since COVID took place. And it was just, I mean, people came out in such large masses. Yeah. It's wonderful for people of all ages, from people all over the world. I mean, people were really involved, and it was a wonderful experience. It always is. So mark your calendars for that.
Does the person get their ticket beforehand, or do you just show up?
No, it's free access. You just, it's all free.
It's all free.
Yeah.
You just show up.
The food and the drinks cost money, but you know,
Yeah,
if you want to just walk on in, there's no barrier to entry, which is great. And there's all these vendors selling stuff. It's a great time. So
yeah, I've been there before. It is wonderful. Very fun. There's a lot going on.
Right. And I think that people are generally drawn to the seafood, the local seafood, and to meet the fishermen. And it's really great marketing for the Saturday market as well, because people think, oh, this kind of thing should happen all the time. And we tell them, well, it sort of does on a much smaller scale every Saturday at the Saturday Fisherman's Market.
One of our missions as an association is to try to create a greater and a stronger connection between us as producers of locally caught seafood and with the community itself, so we can shorten the supply chains and try to make sure what we produce is consumed locally. That's one of our goals and objectives, and we're obviously the Saturday Fisherman's Market is part of that and a successful aspect of it. Yeah.
And so you market to the local restaurants, for example, right? You market your
yes, and there are local fish buyers that buy our product, but then get it directly into the local stream too. So we work with.
So the buyers come and get it, and then they sell it to the restaurants? Is
right.
that how it works?
And some do it that way, but the guys on the pier are all direct marketing their own catch.
Right.
So that's another means for guys to achieve that objective when fishermen market their own catch directly to the public. Plus then you get to meet, as Ava was saying, you get to meet the guy that caught your fish, which is a kind of a good thing.
That is
Farmers markets, same thing, but it's valuable.
Right,
it's a really important thing.
I think one time I heard you suggest that people should ask when they go into a restaurant and they're going to have fish, oh, where did you buy the fish? And so the other day I was in a local restaurant and the waiter came over and I ordered salmon or halibut or something, and I said, oh, where did you buy this fish?
Perfect.
And he said, from the folks at the harbor.
That's wonderful.
The
good.
local
Great job.
people. I thought, man, it's great
Yeah.
that they did that, and it's great that he, a waiter,
Was
knew
aware
that.
of it.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's such an
good.
easy thing that you can do as a local patron at a restaurant. If you want to, make sure that the food that you're eating is locally sourced, if you just ask your waiter or waitress, where did you get this from? And they happen to tell you, or they don't know. It's just important. The education piece is very important.
And there's this broader, bigger vision of it in that you don't know what other countries are doing with respect to managing their marine resources, and we have really rigorous sustainability goals and objectives around our harvest, our take out of the ocean. So when you're buying it from another country, which there's this statistic around it, we import about 80% of what we consume, and we export about 80% of what we produce. And that's a ridiculous dynamic
That's crazy.
and if we're importing fish that are being harvested in ways that are environmentally destructive, well,
We're
that's not a
supporting
great
that.
thing. So you can be pretty confident that if you're buying something from locally produced fishermen, from fishermen that are catching it locally, it's managed really, really well.
California is the most regulated, highly regulated
Yep.
fishery in the state. So, in the country, it's the most highly regulated state in the country. So we set the standard for.
So give me an example of something that would be unacceptable or unhealthy or unproductive.
Farmed.
Well, a lot of the farmed species are done. It's done in ways that aren't necessarily, real sound, and it's often in really like. I don't want to badmouth too many other things, but tilapia or farmed shrimp, those are some of the huge things that we import from other countries that don't have a lot of controls on how they're done. Even though in those cases, those are land-based production, but the quality of what you can get can be drawn into question. Or if the tuna fisheries are still not internationally managed. They're working on it. They're getting closer and closer, but in some parts of the world they're overexploited, and so you could be getting tuna or swordfish from a region of the world where they're being over harvested. And in our case, our tuna and our swordfish are being really, really sustainably harvested through all kinds of gear restrictions and seasons.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you go to the grocery store, and usually at Trader Joe's, they have farmed tilapia is a really popular product that I've seen, and then right next to it it'll say wild local salmon or something like that. Just go for that option, and I know sometimes there's a difference in price, which can make your decision that much harder, but when you choose something that's wild and more sustainably caught, you're doing a lot better than when you purchase the farmed option from a country you don't even know where it's from.
so you think when they say that it's wild and locally caught, that it's true?
Well, there's certain NGOs, environmental NGOs, that are trying to get at that question. So we've helped consult with some of those organizations in an effort to pursue a strategy, maybe a legislative strategy, where they want to change the laws around labeling so that it is more accurate, so that you're not misled and you're buying something that is in fact what it says it is. And so some of the bigger challenges are farm salmon versus wild caught salmon. That's a big one. Globally, that's a big issue. And so to make certain that wild is labeled wild and farmed is labeled farmed, that's been now established. And so that's a step in the right direction, so that we're more informed as consumers as to the details of how that resource is being managed. Because our salmon fisheries from Alaska, they are really, really well managed. Yeah. Most of our salmon comes now from Alaska. And when this year in California, the salmon season was closed.
Oh, yes, I read about that.
Yeah.
And I thought about you guys.
Yeah. Everyone's quite bummed about that.
That's not due to overexploitation. That's due to habitat degradation, right? That's not because we caught all the salmon. It's because the rivers have all been diverted, and the amount of opportunity for them to go up those spaces and spawn has been eliminated over time. So that's not so much, we caught too many.
Yeah.
They don't have an opportunity to spawn.
Yeah.
That's all of our fault, because we're all using that water and consuming the lettuce or almonds or whatever else is being produced with the water that would have normally gone to support those fisheries.
I get it. Okay, so let's switch gears and talk a little bit about volunteers. You guys use volunteers sometimes, like for the Harbor Festival.
Yes.
Yes.
So a person could find out about that by going to your website, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, they could reach out to me online. There's contact information on there where you can submit a message. And typically we recruit volunteers on a case-by-case basis for events, such as the Harbor Festival. Last year we had Almost 20 volunteers, and it was wonderful. A lot of high school kids who are getting their community service hours completed, which I think is wonderful, and it's a great opportunity for the youth in this town to be in touch with their harbor community. And so that's just one example. But we also do fundraisers. Last year we did an event to raise money for Ukraine, and we had, I don't even know how many volunteers we had for that. We had a lot, maybe even 100 volunteers. Yeah. And it was a wonderful community gathering where everyone was working and, just heads down, really putting in a solid effort to really support this great cause.
It was in collaboration with World Central Kitchen.
Yes.
And Jose Andres.
Yes.
Wow.
So we do events of all different kinds, but volunteers are always welcome. We do cleanups all the time. We just did a cleanup with SB Channel Keeper a few weeks ago, and we had volunteers on both sides. We had fishermen that volunteered with us, and then Channel Keeper had recruited a bunch of volunteers to help work on the beach as well. So we were on the boat, and then people on the beach, we were working together. And it's a really, again, another great opportunity to learn more about our local fisheries and how you can do your part to keep the beaches clean. So, volunteers are always welcome. Those inquiries can come to me directly. I'm happy to reach out.
Yeah, so they can, there's probably a contact us phone number on your website. They could call and talk to you.
Anytime, yes, absolutely. Or come see me on Saturday. I'm there every week, and
are
I'd
you?
be happy to chat about opportunities anytime. I'm there every Saturday. It's easy to find me. I'm usually just in the harbor.
Good.
Yeah, that's a great point.
That sounds like fun. And while a person is on the website, they could make, I bet, a financial donation.
That'd be fantastic. We do a lot of really good work, and I think, this community, we work hard to do good things across the board. We also did, just a little another note, we received funding from local philanthropic organizations at the beginning of the pandemic, because the restaurant market disappeared, because all the restaurants closed. We got money to buy fish from fishermen, then process it into a form that was acceptable by the food bank, and then delivered that fish to the food bank that then was distributed to the needy throughout the county.
Oh my gosh.
So we
what
were
a story.
Proactive in trying to do two things at once: benefit our community and then benefit the broader community.
That was brilliant. You guys are creative. So
worked out well.
Give me another example of some issue that might affect all the fishing groups that you would go to Sacramento and advocate for.
So, okay, I think I can go to, right now, the state's making a strong push for offshore wind. And the fishing communities up and down the coast, some of which are really directly impacted, like in Humboldt, in Eureka, and then in Morro Bay, with the actual lease sales right off of the port, and then all the infrastructure to bring electricity from offshore wind to the beach. And the concern around that on the fishing community side is the loss of the area in the ocean that we formerly were able to fish, as well as the infrastructure that comes to the beach and takes up space. It takes up space in the water where the cables run to the beach, but also at the dock where all this new support is going to be required to service the offshore wind turbines. And so we're kind of bracing and trying to negotiate and navigate what we think, or not think, we know will be real significant impacts to the community. And so we're working with state lands and the Coastal Commission and other agencies, as well as federal agencies, BOEM, Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, and then the federal fisheries managers are all concerned about the impacts that taking area out of the ocean is going to have on their ability to manage sustainably.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so it's complicated. It's a complicated dynamic.
So with the turbines, then you can't fish because of all the wind?
Well, because of the actual units themselves, they each take up about a square mile each, and the leases total to date, which are the two real small areas that have been designated so far, a total of 600 square miles of ocean, which are hopefully projected to generate 3 to 5 gigawatts, but the state's goal is to create 25 gigawatts. So you can say, okay, 600 square miles for 3 to 5, so you're looking at like 3,000 square miles of the ocean to meet the state's overall objective of 25 gigawatts of offshore wind. So it'll ultimately have a pretty profound impact on the ocean space, and this is all in federal waters, so it's
Super
you know,
deep.
it's
Oh.
deep.
Very deep. And whale entanglement.
And whale entanglement, that's another big issue that has impacted the northern part of the state and the Dungeness crab fisheries. So there's a bunch of really significant things that we're kind of trying to address in ways that are, you know, super constructive. There's things guys can do, and the state's working with fishermen to try to lower the likelihood of whale entanglement in certain kinds of gear. And so that's a different issue, but they're connected because you know, the grounds are going to be shrinking, and there's, you know, as you push people one direction, you know, the whales, they've been going in and out, and there's been influences in the environment that a few years back pushed a bunch of whales close to the beach, which led to a real spike in whale entanglement. So there are these environmental conditions and you know, spatial challenges between offshore wind and where we fish and where the whales need to go, and even shipping, and then the military, and you bring all these forces into play, and it gets pretty wild fast.
Wow, and here you are right in the middle of it saying, hey, you guys.
Hey, you guys, exactly.
Don't forget about the
That's
fish.
it.
We need to.
Yeah, we're a bunch of independent small businessmen that are just saying, hey, listen, don't forget about us. And I think, because of our history in Southern California dealing with oil, with all the platforms out there and the pipelines that are associated with them, and then the traffic that was in part, we have a kind of a pattern or a way to address the challenges that kind of industrializing the offshore waters can create. And so there are well-worn pathways that we can make sure we go down in relationship to the impacts offshore wind is going to have on us.
I think we in Santa Barbara are so lucky to have you guys. And
Thanks,
I'll bet a
Cindy.
lot of people don't know.
Yeah, the issues,
There's a lot
There's
we're
a
going
lot.
up against. Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yeah. And so I know one of the things you're trying to do is to help people find out about all that.
Right.
And maybe at the Harbor Festival, do you, I don't know, do something to try to educate the public?
Yeah, we've historically had a booth and then, you know, I engage with people on a regular basis too, because I'm usually in the boiling station trying to coordinate that. But
We usually have a table as well.
yeah, an
You know,
information table.
informational.
Because all kinds of nonprofits are on the pier, so you can
Right.
talk to the sanctuary people.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
All the government agencies are usually on the pier too. So that festival is, you know, brings everybody together.
Yeah.
Well,
Great learning
I can hardly
opportunity.
wait for that.
I know.
So we have about a minute left. Anything else you want our audience to know about commercial fishermen of Santa Barbara?
Well, come on down to the Saturday Fisherman's Market.
Yes, yes. And
We'll
bring a
get to know your
container.
fishermen.
Should I bring a container?
We've got bags and ice if you need
Okay.
it. People, regulars bring down their own coolers all the time. But,
Yeah, but
you
it
know,
doesn't hurt to bring something watertight so that, you know, if you come
Yeah.
down in your
Yeah.
vehicle, it doesn't make a mess.
Yeah.
Otherwise, and there's a fillet station there too.
Right.
So you can buy a round fish and then have it filleted so that what you're leaving with is something you can put right in the pan.
So
Right.
somebody could do it for you.
No
That's
mess.
right.
Get all
Yeah.
those guts and
That's
bones and
right.
things
Yes.
out.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. You know it's fresh when you're going straight and getting it filleted like that. You
Right
can take it
there.
home
Great.
right there,
Yeah.
which is really wonderful.
Well, thank you so much for all the important work you're doing that benefits us and that people probably don't know about. And I hope they're going to watch us and find out about it.
I hope so.
Thank you
And
for
thanks
having
for
us.
coming on the show
Yes.
to tell us all about it.
Thank
We appreciate
you.
the opportunity.
Yes, thank you, Cinder.
And thanks for joining us on 805 Focus, and we'll see you next time.